Welcome back to Transcriber from Reddit. Today's topic comes from YouTube, so I will post this across all my social media and across all aspects, all the playlists, I should say, that I have. Because I'm sure all of you know, regardless of which space you heard it in first, that Crowder is getting a divorce from his soon-to-be ex-wife. Today, I will just react to his divorce segment, which came in approximately 6 seconds into his episode on April 25th of this year, titled Tucker Carlson's Firing, The Grand Plan. So, without further ado, let's get into it.
A moment here to address some issues out there that are circulating. It's never fun, but well, I guess let me be clear here. I have been living with a proverbial boot on my neck for going on years now. Since 2021, I've been living through what has increasingly been a horrendous divorce. Now, let me say on the...
Ouch. Now, initially hearing that, I'm sure sympathies were with Stephen. No one thinks that a divorce is good. Now, we can agree to disagree on whether we think certain people deserve to get a divorce from, but in general, your initial gut reaction to anyone telling you, hey, I'm getting divorced, is usually, oh man, that sucks. I'm really sorry for you.
Outset, to be clear, there is no infidelity, any kind of physical abuse at all on either side.
Now, after he said, I'm going through an increasingly hellish divorce, he says he needs to be clear that there's been no infidelity or physical abuse on either side. Well, first off, there's more kinds of abuse than just physical abuse. And second, that seems a little odd to be throwing out there to your entire audience, but okay.
And no, this was not my choice.
Well, clearly it's not. But what does that matter?
Then wife decided that she didn't want to be married anymore.
That's usually how divorces happen. One spouse decides that they don't like the other spouse and they're going to initiate divorce proceedings.
And in the state of Texas, that is completely permitted.
Yes, it is, because it's the rule in Texas. Surprises a lot of people, I know, but it is the rule of law.
It's been the most heartbreaking experience of my life. I
can believe that. Divorce is usually not fun for either party. And depending on who is initiating the proceedings and who decides they're going to make the process difficult for the other person, it can become even more increasingly difficult. But the fact remains that you didn't choose to divorce your wife, or at least you claim that here, because it is alleged that you hired on a divorce attorney before she knew about your plan to divorce her. But, okay, we'll just continue on. He's outraged that this is the state of law in Texas and that he didn't try hard enough as a husband to keep his wife.
Consider to be my deepest personal failure, and just so you know, my opinions on parenting and families have not changed.
I think a lot of people would agree that this is a pretty deep personal failure on your part, Crowder. Divorces usually don't happen because people are money grabby or brief little spat. Most of the time, divorces happen because there is a huge shift in values or a shift in how they perceive the other person is treating them. But this is something you can overcome. It's not a permanent personal failure, not unless you let it be.
I've always believed that children need a mom and a dad, that divorce is horrible, and I still believe that children need a mom and a dad and that divorce is horrible.
Interesting that you say you believe divorce is horrible, but allegedly you were okay with getting a divorce attorney and cutting off your wife financially prior to her finding out about this. But okay, continue.
But in today's legal system, my beliefs don't matter.
Funny. Again, allegedly you got the divorce attorney first, but you're claiming that in this legal system, your beliefs don't matter. Is it your beliefs that you should be able to get a divorce attorney without your wife ever finding out about it? Or is that your beliefs that your wife shouldn't have ever divorced you and that you should have been able to just completely browbeat her under a rock?
In Texas, divorce is permitted when one party wants it, period.
Which, again, allegedly was you.
So for well over a year, in the best interest as well as physical safety of my children, we've decided to keep this issue private and to resolve it privately with the appropriate attorneys.
Until you decided to bring it up on air and are continuing to talk about it on air.
What have you, legal jargon. Now, in all this, one thing I want to be really clear about is certain. True north here is that my children are blameless.
Also weird to throw out there that you automatically assume that the audience does not think that your children are blameless. Why would you say that?
Completely without fault, and so we decided to resolve these issues privately, as it's in their best interests, both emotionally and physically, to do so.
Again, really weird to tie it back to your earlier point of you were going to keep it private. Well, until you decided to talk about it for longer than 5 seconds on your show. I would have understood if he just said, hey, look, I'm going through a divorce right now. Everything's doing fine, except maybe emotionally, but, that's just how life works, and would have continued. But no, he's elaborating here.
Now, the other issue is, and this is something that I've kept private for likely far too long, many other people knew about this behind the scenes. Some, not all, but some of them in positions of power, influence, leverage, knew of this. They also knew that the safety of my children included keeping it private. So if you're familiar with the idea of extortion, then you know the feeling well. Now, some of these threats were so thinly veiled that I'm frankly surprised you didn't all guess immediately.
Stephen.
Interesting that he calls them threats, but okay. He's bringing on the Candace Owens bit. That was back from that whole feud, when the whole feud happened with Steven Crowder and the Daily Wire.
Has a lot going on, I guess is the best way to say it. He has a lot going on, and that should be clear because people don't do stuff like this if there's not a lot going on in their lives. I would like to implore my audience and everybody that isn't paying attention to this situation not to condemn him, but to pray for him. Sometimes people need a prayer. Sometimes people need a scripture. Stephen purports to be a Christian. I am unsure at this moment if it is my place to say more than that. Maybe if I feel in further defense, some things should be said, or maybe if I feel that the public has a right to understand certain circumstances.
Personally, I don't see the threat in Candace Owens' words. I see that there is an implied, if something comes out, then maybe she feels the need to talk about it, which is ironic because Steve here is talking about it and acting like she is forcing him to talk about it.
Well, my children have a right to privacy. Now, some other issues have been, or I should say, inferences have been more pernicious behind the scenes with demands and threats to use this information that they believe would be so publicly embarrassing to me and my wife at a difficult time that it could be used, knowingly putting my children in harm's way. So to those self-styled Christians, conservatives, and allies, Well, not in my book. Now, if you find yourself, I don't want to get into details, so this is going to likely be the only time I have to address this or want to address this. If you're asking yourself, hey, did X person or did Y person know? The answer is likely yes, which will be made alarmingly clear as this process of discovery continues. And it also, by the way, makes me that much more appreciative of those who did know about this and, in understanding the best interests of my family, my children, kept their word and used discretion. I can't thank you enough. Sincerely, I appreciate it. Won't forget it. It's pretty simple. I loved a woman so much that I married her. A woman who,
That's usually how marriage happens.
despite all of this, I still love as the mother of my children. And she wanted something else for her.
You love her as the mother of your children. I find that interesting because you don't list anything about her specifically that you love. Which makes me wonder if you decided that this whole relationship was all about what she could do for you. Which is sad. Allegedly, now this is a guess of mine, but did he not see his wife as a person?
Life. That's not my choice. She simply wanted out, and the law says that that's how it works. Now, of course, look, I get it. There are multiple sides to every story, but one thing that is undeniable in this case is that it's no one's fault but my own in that I picked wrong, and that's certainly not the fault of my children.
Oh my God. You picked wrong, huh? That's the only fault, that's the only takeaway that you can take away here, huh? That you picked wrong? Look, my initial reaction to this was, he said that, and I'm like, okay, that's weird, but, you know, obviously we don't know what happened to Hillary behind closed doors. So I just found everything that he said up to this point very weird. But now, having seen the footage, the ring footage, I'm wondering, and I'm leaning towards Stephen just being a massive, emotionally abusive piece of crap. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Thanks.